Good day, Chris.
What's going on?
How long can I keep this accent up before I morph into an Irish one?
Probably that sentence.
Did I do it already? Really? Oh,
You
man.
How long do you think
That's
I can
buggers,
keep
mate.
this accent going on till I get to the Irish accent?
It doesn't take long to get there, man.
Oh, that was tough to do.
Yeah. Start thinking about it and you just end up there whether you want to be there or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think my Irish accent that I do is pretty good.
The way I try to get into it is I have to tell people the time, and I got to say, it's 3:30.
Half tree?
Yeah, 3:30.
Quarter past the buggers, Ryan.
3:10.
See, then I can go right back to the Australian accent. I just don't know when it's going to happen.
You know what I was doing the other day that I thought was really funny? I was singing in the car, obviously, and I was trying to do something different. So I started singing the songs with different accents, and something like Ghost sung in a Southern accent is really funny. I'm not going to do it, but
I was hoping you would.
I might record it later.
Oh, you can record it later. I'll listen to it then.
Yeah.
But yes, if you're wondering why I'm talking in an Irish Australian accent, it's real simple, mate. We're going to Australia this week.
Oh, you're one of the first generation prisoners that were sent there, obviously, if you're Irish.
It's a penile colony, mate.
It's a what? What? With the what?
Penile colony. But that was, they had the Australian didgeridoo type music. So yeah, this week, Patreon picks from our friend David. David is an Aussie. And he chose 2 Aussie flicks for us to watch there, mate.
Which is nice because I don't know a lot about them. And these 2 were ones I'd never heard of.
No, yeah, and they were not easy to track down either.
I can imagine.
So David chose from 1986, directed by Nadia Tass, Malcolm. And from 1988, directed by Barry Pake, As Time Goes By.
Hey, so I got a question. I'm going to push a button here on this mixer. And if I push this button and you stop hearing talking and
I stopped hearing
Okay,
you.
good. That's my cough button.
Oh, your cough button.
Yeah. They have those in radio, I guess. If you're going to cough, you hit the button and your mic's muted. So I'm going to hit mute. That's good to know.
I have this one. I could just be like, hey, man, you're a real...
Yeah.
And you can totally do this thing with your side, and it's up, down, up, and down, in and out, then this,
Yeah.
you bugger. So what you're talking about is a ducking button.
Oh, really?
Is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could be like, oh. That didn't work, did it?
No. That's all right.
No.
I'll use the mute and that'll work.
That's fine. That's fine. Yes, this week on the show, David's Patreon picks As Time Goes By and Malcolm, both 2 Australian flicks. And one of the things that in doing this show for the 15 plus years we've been doing it, that I have really enjoyed is digging into Aussie cinema, which is something that outside of like your big like Road Warrior and stuff like that, I didn't really do much before this show. And a lot of that came with Not Quite Hollywood exploitation documentary that they did. And these are 2 films that I don't think were brought up in that documentary. I was not familiar with either of these. And they were not, as I said, they were not really easy to track down. They're not available on any streaming services as far as I can tell, at least here in the States. I did fire up the VPN and checked some of the other stores in the other parts of the world, and I didn't come across them. All physical media of them, as far as I can tell, is completely out of print. So if you guys hear the reviews and you're interested in seeing these, let us know. And since they're not really available, I don't really necessarily have an issue getting them to you guys if you want to watch them. So
I was looking.
I will tell you that both of them, the copies that we watched, were not of good quality.
No, but they were fun quality. It worked for the movies. I thought.
I guess.
I'm just going with it. I'm looking through 80s Australian movies. And I mean, in the 80s, I was a teenager, so I can't really be expected to be knowledgeable about stuff. But the movies I had watched were like Crocodile Dundee 1 and 2, the Mad Max movies, obviously, BMX Bandits, and my favorite, Young Einstein. So
I always forget about Young Einstein.
There wasn't much over here, at least in what I'm looking at here. I mean, we saw the title Dead End Drive-In at the video store, but I probably saw that, but I don't remember. I know we covered it, so. But yeah,
we definitely covered it at some point.
Yeah,
I mean, we've covered a lot of Australian
it.
stuff now. Yeah, it's just I don't really remember it, but I remember not being super into it.
It was more contemplation on the end of the world, nuclear war, and the relationships.
The problem with that movie, there was the biggest problem with that movie, there was a whole lot of so I couldn't really get into it.
Like Heart and Knife.
Heart and Knife?
Wasn't that the name of it on Shudder? It was the gay porno that started off there, and there was one dude that was called The Mouth.
Oh yeah.
The first movie in this entire run of the show, I stopped watching.
Yeah, well, I watched it and I got really and then I was done with it. So,
well, normally that's how porn works. And what's funny is I can give you any answer because no one knows what the real question is when you hit.
No one knows. As I drink my tea, I found that I can't really drink hot coffee anymore since I got sick.
Oh, does it
something
irritate?
I can drink iced coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, but the hot coffee for some reason really irritates my stomach.
Huh.
Which is a bummer because I love coffee.
Yeah. Well, that's weird.
I don't know. Maybe it's in my head.
I don't know.
Maybe it's in.
That's possible. Absolutely. But I know that after COVID, people's taste perception changed. As you get older, you either want more hot stuff or less, or tastes change, body changes. Not a fan.
Is what it is.
Fan.
Is what it is.
Hey, let me tell you a funny story real
Patreon.
quick before you do that. Let me tell you a funny story.
All right.
So we have one of those memory foam mattresses. I'm not in frame, am I? Let me try.
No. Everyone on Twitch that's watching the show is calling you a bugger.
Okay. So what's that, 2 people?
I actually don't know if we're on Twitch.
So in the middle of the night, the dogs will climb up into the bed and lay down with us. And we have a memory foam mattress now, which I'm still getting used to because we just got it recently. But if you've ever had one, you know it doesn't have that hardish edge that a regular spring mattress has, which lets your body know when you're asleep, that's the edge because, years and years of sleeping in them. So when the dog that's 70 pounds gets in the bed, puts her back against you, I was laying on my right side. So the edge of the bed was behind me. She laid down, put her back against me, pushed against Ellen, and then I woke up on the floor. The dog rolled me out of the bed, and fortunately, it's a small enough space to walk to get into the bed, so it's like my width. So I'm laying there, and my arms are like this in front of me because of the narrow space. And Ellen comes over and she says, "Oh my God, what happened?" All I kept saying was, "I'm on the floor." And I tried to go back to sleep.
On the floor?
Yeah. I think I said, "I'm fine. And she's like, "Get up. What happened?" I'm like, "That dog's trying to kill me. It's fine." And then
it's got to try harder, apparently.
I have this huge bruise on my tricep, too, from where I fell. I must have caught one of the drawers in the bottom of the bed or something really nice. But I didn't feel anything for a full day.
That's great.
If you want more stories like this, you should join our Patreon.
Yeah, well, yeah. Or if you want the same amount of stories and you can listen to them again, you can join the Patreon.
I just wanted to give a tease.
It's a good tease. Yeah, patreon.com/outside the cinema. It's the best way to keep up with the show, best way to support the show. We got a whole bunch of stuff in the archives that you can't get anywhere else. Thousands and hours of stuff. Plus, if you're one of our Patreon subscribers, just like David from Australia.
And Larry from last week.
We'll cover your movies. Yeah. Larry.
Yeah. That guy. I don't know about that guy.
Larry. But yeah, so David sent us a message. He was like, I'd like you guys to cover these films. It took us a little while. I'm not going to lie. It did take us a little while to get to them because these were ones that weren't, I said, I had to go out and find copies of them. But we got there. So we fulfilled the promise, at least to one of them, to at least David.
Good point.
So
we're on our way.
Yeah, he didn't really send any information in terms of why we should cover them. I think it's probably kind of self-explanatory once you watch these movies. But yeah, patreon.com/outside the cinema. All the money that we generate there goes right back into keeping the show online, pays for our internet, pays for our equipment, pays for the hosting, all of that stuff, just so that OTC doesn't cost us anything out of pocket.
Yeah.
Which, for the most part, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's definitely nice. It's a good incentive to keep going, isn't
it? Right. So, all right, cool. Let's get into this. Let's just do Malcolm first because it is
harmless.
Because it is 86, and we'll just do them in order.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah.
All right. So this is Malcolm, 1986. Take a listen to the trailer.
Malcolm is harmless. Malcolm is innocent. Malcolm is shy. Malcolm is gentle. Malcolm is a genius and wanted. From a man afraid of everything.
I can't give you any more milk. You haven't paid me for 3 weeks.
To a man afraid of nothing.
Are you a neat and tidy person who makes his, stroke, her own bed and washes the dishes?
Oh, listen, I just want a room.
His life would never be the same the day Frank and Judith came to stay.
I just got out of jail. So, I mean, if you're going to blather that all around the place, we might as well pack up and leave now.
You're not going to leave, are you? How do you get the money?
Nobody move. You're right. Stick 'em up or I'll blow your brains out.
Watch out, Frank, behind you.
It's the oldest trick in the book. What's he doing out there?
Who knows?
It's a getaway car.
I can run faster than this.
Open the glove box. All right.
If only he'd put his mind to something. Use that brain of his.
One is registered LDW, the other 073.
Nobody move.
What the?
Get back or I'll shoot.
In God's name got into you.
Cops wouldn't know where to start looking. He never left his bedroom.
I know you're up to something, so I'm going to help you.
What, rob banks?
Malcolm, a comedy of hopes and schemes.
Oh, there you have it. Comedy and schemes.
Schemes. Definitely schemes.
So Malcolm, 1986, directed by Nadia Tass, written by David Parker. Nadia Tass, not familiar with anything. As I'm scrolling through this, it looks like a lot of Australian TV movies, maybe.
Okay.
Some work on The Wonderful World of Disney back in the day. Oh, Pure Luck. I saw Pure Luck.
Yeah?
Yeah. Ricky and Pete. Fatal Honeymoon. That Malcolm was her debut.
Oh, nice.
Debut flick. Looks like she actually has done a lot of work in TV, actually, over the years now. So, cool. Malcolm, starring Colin Frizzles. He was in Darkman. He was in Dark City and some other stuff. A lot of Australian TV work. The dog is snoring really loud, and I can hear it. Stupid dog. I love him though. I had never heard of this. I'd never heard of this.
Nope. And it was difficult to look up on IMDb as well. You
had to basically type in Malcolm and then just scroll until you found it.
Yeah. I ended up I went off of the editor. Because I tried some of the actors and I'm like, I'm not getting a goddamn thing on these people. But yes, finally found it. And typing in knockoff Sam Neill didn't help.
Knock off Sam Neill didn't help?
No, it gave me nothing.
Gave me.
Nope, I got nothing from that. It's just
it's
just
good,
a link.
Good
to
timing
Wish.
for my IMDb app to decide that it's going to update now. It's perfect timing.
Sorry, that's just.
It's okay. It's okay. So the story of Malcolm, you have Malcolm Hughes. He is a painfully shy gentleman, but he is a mechanical genius. We learned that pretty early on. He works with the trams in town, and he builds his own.
Yeah.
And we get this strangely heartwarming scene of him getting out of work for the day, going home, and getting in his own self-built tram and driving around the city in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And goddamn, he looks happy.
He really
he looks
did.
so happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a fan of what they did to him for that, but what can you do?
So he goes back to work the next day and his boss is screaming at him. Basically, it sounds like he has potentially stolen some things from the work to build the tram. And he's basically like, I can't have one of my workers driving around town in a self-built tram. Like, he's like, just can't do it. So sorry, I gotta fire you. I shouldn't say sorry. He doesn't really seem very sorry. Basically, it seemed like, it's like, you're a pain in the ass and you're a fucking weirdo and you've done something we can fire you for. So we're going to do it.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't say, look, an unregistered, unlicensed cart can't be on the train line if we can't track it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Also,
But again-
you're a weirdo.
Yeah, that was really more what it was. It's just like, you're a strange duck.
Yeah, I could definitely see that he would make other people uncomfortable. But if he did take stuff to make his thing, which, I mean, how are you going to get the axles and the wheels? I mean,
No, and he doesn't say it, but it's kind of alluded to of like, hey, like you took some stuff you weren't supposed to.
yeah, but he's
So
not.
Malcolm-
He's not malicious though. Malcolm is
No,
an
no,
innocent character.
He's very much like you're watching and you're like, okay, is he got some mental problems? Has he got some deficiencies? It's never really kind of cleared up, but like he seems like just a quiet kind of weirdo.
Yeah.
So he's now jobless. He goes home. He's living in his house that he had lived in with his mom. His mom had passed away. We learned that because one of the ladies that works at the store is basically like, oh, if your mom could see you now, she'd be very upset.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like, he builds these little things. He's got a remote control car that he's built that he can drive over to the store to pick up milk.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to leave the house. When he's walking home, we see that like he literally sees there's like a dog. There's like adorable like dog just sitting on the sidewalk, and he stops, crosses the street to the other side of the street, walks down, and then there's these two kids playing handball there. Then stops, crosses the street to go to the other side of the street. So they do a really good job at illustrating how much he does not want to have any communication or contact with anybody.
Yeah. They're towing the line between agoraphobic and just being afraid of people in general, and like sheltered and painfully shy. Not painfully shy, but almost like fatally shy.
Right. So he doesn't have any money. The lady cuts him off at the store and is like, listen, I can't give you any more milk. I can't give you any bread. Like, you haven't paid the bill, Why don't you rent out a room in your house? You buy there by yourself, She's like, I'll put a thing in the window, rent out a room.
And that was really
And so she
nice. No one is mean to him, but they are.
Everyone seems to genuinely
stern.
like him.
Yeah. But I think they all know that like he needs to be reminded of the rules because he's so in his own head or whatever. Like, I was thinking, is he autistic on the spectrum? But he does some stuff that definitely isn't autistic behavior. So, yeah, I mean, really, it's not there's no mental illness. He was just sheltered. He was kept dumb, sadly, but he learned the stuff he wanted to. He has no knowledge of the outside world, pretty much.
His only outside world stuff was the job he was going to, and he was working on the trams.
Yeah.
So
he wouldn't leave that one building, it seems.
Right. So, we meet Frank then. Frank shows up, played by John Hargraves, at Malcolm's house and is looking for the room to rent.
Mm-hmm.
Frank, or John Hargraves, he was in the original version of Long Weekend.
Okay.
Which I think is the only thing that I really remember him from. But That's actually, I really like Long Weekend. The original, not the remake, was just fine.
Man.
But anyway, so he shows up, and he's a bad dude because he's wearing jeans and a jean jacket and smoking a cigarette. So
yeah, handmade too.
Handmade, yeah. I roll in my house.
Yep. There's something about people that rolled cigarettes in the 80s that just is like, oh, he's a badass.
He's a badass. So Malcolm shows up at the door and he's like, I want to rent the room. And he starts asking him all these questions, but like he doesn't give him an opportunity to answer the questions.
No, he just knows that you have to ask questions. That's probably what she said to him. You have to ask questions. So he did. He's literal. He is a literal person. Not that he is an actual human being. I mean, he is extraordinarily literal in he's Drax, is what I'm saying. He's a skinny, scared Drax.
Skinny, scared, minute Australian Drax.
Yeah.
So Frank moves in. He decides to stay in the room. And so Malcolm is basically just kind of like getting used to having somebody else there. Like he makes them dinner and he asks a bunch of questions. And like Frank is like, listen, I'm going to go to the pub. And then Frank brings home Judith, which is now his girlfriend. And so she's now shacking up at the house too. And I kind of liked where this went because I very much was thinking it was going to be one of those things where the two of them are going to exploit him.
Right.
And that's not where it goes.
No.
It's literally the opposite.
What we get basically is that the boyfriend, what was his name again? Frank. He's about as smart as Malcolm in the ways of the world. Like they're
right, but Malcolm is got the brilliance of the mechanical stuff.
Right,
like he's brilliant with that stuff, but everything else he has no idea.
Frank has the knowledge to put that to use, and
he's got the street smarts as well.
Yeah, and Judith that's her name, right?
Sure.
She is the tactician of the group. She's the voice of reason, which is interesting. Yeah, I really thought this was going to be like a Bad Boy Bubby or Dead Man's Shoes or something where it's like, oh fuck, why did I put myself through this? But I was wrong.
Yeah, so we know that Frank is a criminal. He said that he went to jail, and we see him pulling a heist where he's stealing a bunch of TVs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of my favorite things in this movie is just how inept all of the police officers are. They're just such idiots. Yeah. Like, so Malcolm is kind of getting an idea. He's like, all right, well, Frank's kind of like a badass, but I kind of like the guy too. So
because he's actually, this is probably the longest he's ever interacted with somebody except from his boss at work.
Yeah. So Malcolm starts to try to endear himself to Frank, and like, so you heard it in the trailer. If you watch the trailer, he builds this car that literally just splits in half. He's got some pieces holding it together. You open them up, the car breaks into two pieces, and he must have put a motor, a motorcycle motor, like something, but he's changed it so the car splits into two pieces and drives off in two different directions. Yeah. So they're out in the car and he does that, and then the police start chasing him, and then they're able to get themselves away because of the escape car. Right. And so now Frank is kind of like, all right, so Malcolm ain't so bad, but he still thinks Malcolm's an idiot.
Yeah.
So it takes Judith basically being like, Malcolm's not an idiot. Like you should give him some credit and stuff.
Yeah.
And now Malcolm is like, all right, well, when you like do these crimes, like, what do you do? How do you get the money? Like, how do you do this stuff?
Yeah.
How do you do that stuff?
Yeah, and they don't want to tell him.
And they don't want to tell him because he's quote unquote the sweet and innocent character, but he's like, whatever. I don't give a shit.
He's also a potential alibi too, so you don't want to have the less he knows, the better off they are.
Right. But so they kind of ramp things up, and eventually they decide they're going to rob a bank.
Yeah.
And it goes well for them, I guess. This movie's funny because it's got a nice chunk of originality to it. It's not, like I said, it didn't go where I expected it to.
No.
It's genuinely funny in a number of spots. I do like the cinematography of the kind of like rundown, like suburbs, Australian suburbs, which you don't really get to see a lot. usually Australia and Australian movies in general, you see either like Sydney or like Brisbane, the big cities, or it's the outback.
Yeah.
This is nice. This is like a normal like suburb.
It is.
That, you know,
it is. It's
like everyday life for probably, you know, most Australians.
Yeah. Not as run down as well, I don't know. His house wasn't really run down. He put up a lot of trams. Sorry, there is a difference.
Yep.
But it's not like unkempt. Like nobody complains about him or how the house is. That's just a non-starter for the whole thing. It's just he's there, and it's a fine, normal neighborhood. It's just. But I do like how all the stuff he made was on purpose, super homemade looking. That was really good.
Well, and yeah, and it's kind of given he kind of builds everything.
Yeah.
Like you'd mentioned the trains, he's got all these crazy train sets that run through the house. He'd built his own, you know, tram thing, built the car, like he's
so he did the
got
thing
a
for the
set
mail.
up. Yeah, the thing for the mail. He's got the bird in the back where he like has it set so the bird can feel like the bird's outside, but it's in still a cage. And it's all very sweet. Very sweet, very endearing. Even the music, as cheesy as it was the Cafe Penguin Orchestra?
Cafe Orchestra. Yeah, I actually like that because it really set the tone for the whole movie. Because it's all the stuff most people would probably remember from Napoleon Dynamite, but they used a couple tracks from this band, and it's light. It reminds me like it should be in a trailer that features like Amelie. You know? It's that kind of bouncy, light. Yeah, something's going to happen, but it's not going to be so bad. You'll be fine.
Right.
It's folksy.
This movie had a very like live action 70s, early 80s Disney feel. When you watch it, like Condor Man or like
it did, yeah.
Apple Dumpling Gang or like any of those type of like those kind of forgotten Disney live action movies, it definitely had that feel to it because it's all very innocent.
Yeah.
Even when they're like robbing the bank and stuff, like there's he puts blanks in the gun because Malcolm doesn't want to hurt anybody, and like they don't actually go to the like they rob a bank, but they never step foot inside the bank, and like it's all very like innocent in this way, and it's really kind of this nice dynamic because Frank kind of, you know, he comes off as this hard-edged like jerk to start, but then when he starts to buy into what Malcolm's doing and how he's helping him, and like he softens up.
Yeah, once he knows he can trust him and there's no problem.
Yeah. And the whole kind of getaway scene at the end where they like have like the fake ice cream truck.
That was
like the police guy's like, "Hey, how about an ice cream?" We don't have any. He's like, "You're an ice cream truck. What do you mean you don't have any ice cream?"
I thought it would have been so much better because the first cop says, "I'm going to get an ice cream," looking at the truck. And the other guy says, "It's the middle of winter. Why do you need ice cream?" Or something like that. And then first cop turns to
They're
the
also
truck.
sitting in traffic on the highway.
Yeah. First cop turns and Malcolm's there and he just gives the friend. He says, "Hey, give me an ice cream." And we don't have any. The answer should have been, "It's the middle of winter. We just had the truck fixed." All right. It's that little stuff that's like, but then there's sort of a chase. You got to have a chase. And I guess it worked in the end. It was a little confusing after they got out of the ice cream truck. But oh no, I got it. I remember.
You got it? All right.
Yeah, my main thing was I was watching, I'm like, why didn't they park the truck in the alley so that, you know, turn it a little bit, like how the Ever Given got stuck in the Suez Canal, and then everybody can jump out one door and it blocks the police from getting through. But the truck's on the road off to the side so you can see the cop coming because you got to have the time crunch.
Right.
I did love how they got away.
Chris, do you recommend and what is your grade for David's pick of Malcolm?
Yeah, if you can find this, I recommend it. It's interesting. It's a different take on the pulled into a life of crime. I would have been happy though. Remember, real near the end, there's a scene where they're going up and over a hill. right after the scene I talked about. That's where I wanted it to end. That would have been nice. But they did a little more, and that was fine.
It was fine. It was totally fine.
It was fine, but I like the more fairy tale ending in my head. But that's all right. But that's not going to take anything away because I have to rate it on what I saw and not what I wanted.
Right.
So I'm going to give it a B+. I like this a lot more than I thought, and in the end, because they're quote unquote bad guys. They're breaking the law, but they're not your typical like rabid dogs kind of, criminals. They're and Malcolm just wants to do what he wants to do and not worry about money. He's a lot like Forrest Gump in that way. One less thing to worry about. And they don't really corrupt him because he finds it on his own and he's almost better at it than they are. So it was
almost, yeah. Well, he's coming at it from a different area.
Yeah.
And a different mindset.
Yep. So it was enjoyable. I was very surprised with how the characters turned out because I did not think it was going that way. So yeah, B+ and a recommend.
B+. All right.
Drop it.
I'm going to recommend it also. I enjoyed this much more than I think I expected to when it started.
Yeah.
As it kind of played itself out, and I kind of got into the characters. I really enjoyed the way they presented everybody and how they give you some kind of not false turns into what the characters are going to be, but Malcolm isn't exactly who you expect him to be, right. And then Frank and Judy Judy, what, it doesn't matter, the girlfriend don't end up being exactly who you expect them to be. So I thought all of that was fun. I really liked the way this film was suburban Australia. I haven't seen a lot of that. I like that, the way they shot it. I thought it looked really good for what they were trying to come across with. Overall, just very, very enjoyable flick. Completely harmless, family-friendly fare. Like I said, really got a strong Disney live action late 70s, early 80s feel out of this.
Yeah.
Even they're they're like Escape from Witch Mountain and stuff like that. That type of feel, or did they do this? Did they do the Ray Bradbury? The Something Wicked This Way Comes? Was that Disney?
I thought. Yeah, they were trying to go a little darker with that and Black Hole at the time, maybe.
Yeah, but I got a very, very Disney live action feel from this, and I enjoyed it. I liked the music. I really liked it. I'm gonna give it a B+ also. It's a nice little nugget if you can find a copy of it. And like I said earlier, potentially I could get you a copy of it. Just saying. Just saying is all.
Yeah. The hardest part I had with this whole movie was reminding myself that this man's name is Colin Friels and not Dr. Alan Grant or anybody that went on the Event Horizon or had a possession or who has a girlfriend that can't bring the milk home properly or any of that. He really looks like Sam Neill in about 30% of the scenes.
He does.
And I think it's the haircut.
He does.
Because I'm looking at pictures of him in other places, and he doesn't look the same.
No, he doesn't.
But in this movie, it must be the hair and the general physical features of his face that kind of... Because I'm like, oh, Sam Neill, this will be... Who's that? But I didn't mind. I didn't mind at all. It's like when I watch The Void and I expect the girl that's pregnant in it to be Annie Edison there from Community.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not her.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Totally dressed and looks like her. But it's not Allison Brie. That's her name.
It is not Allison Brie.
No.
It is not Nadia the Destroyer.
No. But the nurse in The Void was Knives Chow in Scott Pilgrim, I found out. So she did some pretty good acting in The Void.
Not bad.
Yeah.
All right, next. 1988. As time goes by, I couldn't find a trailer for this.
Oh.
I didn't dig super, super deep. It's kind of, there isn't one on IMDb, and I couldn't find one on YouTube. And again, this is another one, as far as I can tell, is even tougher to find than Malcolm. At least Malcolm, I think you can potentially buy some digital copies of it somewhere. This one, I can't find anything for it anywhere. Directed by Barry Peake, also written by Barry Peake. He also directed a film called Future Schlock in 1984. He directed The Big Hurt in 86, Channel Chaos in 84. Let's just scroll through here, see if there's anything else we would recognize. That's actually everything he's ever worked on.
Oh, okay.
That's it. So, starring Bruno Lawrence, who you may remember from Jack Be Nimble a couple weeks ago. Which is funny that he showed up now twice in like 2 episodes or whatever, but that's fine. Nikki Needles is Mike, Ray Barrett is J.L. Weston, and a whole host of other Australian faces. So as time goes by, is this is an interesting one. This is, and I think David picked this because it's kind of a weird film. I'm not still entirely sure what they're trying to do. It's a comedy, and I feel like they're trying to do a send-up or a spoof of like alien sci-fi movies from this time period, or from like the early 80s.
Yeah, what year was this again?
88.
Okay, I got to check a date on something.
Okay, while you do that, I will talk more about this movie then.
Yeah, 85.
So,
Explorers was in 85, and it had an alien at the end that spoke through TV. So
okay,
I think that's where the whole idea comes from, because, you know, their references are however many decades behind ours because of how long it takes the signals to travel. So I'm assuming that's why this guy named it Joe Bogarts, because Humphrey Bogart, and Joe is a nice normal name that wouldn't raise suspicion. And then he talks like Bumblebee the whole time. Which Bumblebee stole from Explorers or whatever came before that.
Right. So this is, so you open with a gentleman riding with 2 women through the outback. He's going to, was it Dingo, which is apparently an area. I don't know if it's a real Australian area, but they're in the outback. They're like out in the desert. He's carrying a he has a surfboard with him.
Right.
And so the 2 people he's with decide that they don't want to go any further. They're going to go back, but Mike, the surfer, he wants to keep going.
Yep.
So he starts walking, finds the carcass of a animal on the side of the road. That's not a carcass. It's just a skeleton at this point.
Right.
And I feel like he's kind of at that point decided he's just like, all right, I guess I'm done. Posts up on the side of the road and puts out a chair and starts sunbathing.
Yeah.
Then Bruno Lawrence's rider pulls up in a Jeep and is basically kind of like, what you doing? And he's like, well, I'm traveling. Could you give me a ride? He's like, well, where are you going? He's like, oh, I'm going to this place. He's like, oh, well, that's north of here. I'm traveling west. And he's like, that's fine. Gets in with him. We learn that Ryder is a cop, sort of, I guess. And there's these guys that have been poisoning sheep. So they roll up on the guys that have poisoned the sheep, and they have a shootout there with some rifles and stuff.
Yeah, and that guy is like a fucking Australian Terminator, the way he approached those guys. He takes cover a little bit, takes some shots, but then eventually he's like, fuck this. And he holds the rifle at hip height, and he's just walking and shooting out in the open. Walking and shooting, dead look on his face. That's what I expect from my Australians.
As well they should.
Faced with danger, fuck them.
So this movie's kind of, it's not like, when I say it's weird, it's not like arty weird. There's just like, it's just weird stuff going on in this. And I'm going to be honest, like it takes like 45 minutes or so to really kind of kick in to like get where you're going. Cause like, if you look at the poster for it, like there's like
yes.
So there's an alien spaceship, but it looks like a 1950s diner.
Right.
So when the movie first opens, we see it crashing to Earth with a lot of Budweiser logos and stuff.
That made
very
it confusing.
Front and center.
Yeah, that made it confusing because it looked
so
like
you don't really know what's going on.
Was falling out of orbit.
Yeah, and then they don't really revisit it for like 45 minutes or so.
I know, right?
So we learn that Mike is following up on a note that he received as a child where he's supposed to meet somebody somewhere at a specific time on a specific date, which is why he was traveling to this area.
Back to the Future too.
Yeah, so we also meet Connie, who knows Ryder, and they're like friends, and then I guess Mike hooks up with her and she's helping him get to where he needs to get to. We also then have a guy that runs a meteorological house or hut or something, and he's like a scientist. And then we got a guy that's chasing aliens, and he's a professor / scientist somewhere.
It's like like every trope of I mean, like Invader Zim does the whole hidden aliens, and so does like 1,000 other things. It's got to be a spoof because it's pulling from all these things, like unabashedly pulling from all of them. So I'm going with this was an attempt at parody.
It was,
and I don't mean that meanly.
Yeah, and the parody that they do though is it's not quite parodied enough. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have your parodies like your Naked Guns and stuff like that where like it's slapstick spoof.
Yeah.
This isn't like that.
No.
This is more like we're presenting it kind of what it is with it being very tongue in cheek.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's more of an amalgamation homage kind of thing than any kind of anything with that's trying to say something like, look how silly this whole premise is or anything like that. But it could actually be saying that because it is kind of weird.
Well, and it's all over the place because like the guy that's like the meteorological, he's like a cattle guy, and he's like, I'm talking about how he's going to use the Earth's ozone to make the desert green again.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Nope, none.
Also, the ozone layer's fixed. How's Australia doing? Still red and dusty.
It's hot. It's hot.
Yep.
So then there's also like a guy that runs a store who's obsessed with dust.
Yeah. Move. Everything you own, eat, and sleep on is it's dust. It's not even covered. It's just dust.
It's just dust.
It's just dust.
Then we got the spaceship with the guy that runs the alien goes by the name Joe Bogart. And then there's a time machine that's in a cocktail shaker.
I like that idea. It was interesting the way they put the numbers on it. I like that. It was dumb, but I liked it.
And the Joe Bogart character, as you said earlier, kind of just mimics everything that he's seen in movies and television as he speaks.
Yeah.
And he tells Mike, he's like, listen, I lost this piece of the spaceship. I needed to be able to get home. Can you find it for me?
Mm.
One of the things I love though is like the first couple times we see the spaceship, like, and it's like it's set up as the diner.
Yeah.
How like outside of it, like it sounds like the place is rocking. Like you hear all the people talking and murmuring and like glasses chinging together. And you're like, but like there's no cars anywhere or anything. There's nobody around it. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you see it again, and it's the same thing. And then Mike walks inside, and you hear all the voices go, "Oh, he's coming! Shh!" And then it's dead silence.
Yeah.
And he walks in, and there's nobody in there, which I thought was I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was funny. I like that. But there was also wasn't there a guy that went in before, opened the door?
Well, yeah, the older gentleman.
Yeah,
the older gentleman.
Yeah. And all you saw was that one dude. I don't know why that one dude would have freaked him out. He wasn't that abnormal looking.
Oh, when he started plugging himself in the neck with that flesh.
Well, there's that
or whatever it was.
Yeah, but I mean, they've seen colostomy bags and stuff before, right? It's an easy.
Hey, whoa, I don't want to talk about that.
Right?
I want.
Oh shit! Sorry, yeah,
dude, I was real close. I was real close.
I didn't even. It didn't register.
You're triggering me, bro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually. Actually, if you said catheter, that would have been a different story.
Yeah, no. I don't talk about
because I went through that shit.
Yeah,
that was not fun.
No. I was reading about stuff like that. Like some people get off on that feeling.
No thanks.
Yeah, no, good for them, but
no thanks. Not to be gross, but my response was, "Hey, that hurts way more than I would think it would." And she goes, "Well, I'm just inflating it." And I'm like, "And I'm just telling you, it hurts way more than it fucking should."
Jeez. Yeah, that's a big thing with
It wasn't that big.
No, that's with being in that position for so long, dealing with people in pain. You hear it
get desensitized
so
to it.
much, yeah. So like that's actually an issue, and it seems that women are less believed than men, and black women even more so. Somehow, somewhere in some fucking dark annal of history, somebody decided that black people don't feel pain, like white people do. I meant you and me, because we're white, not we, the collective racist whole. But can you believe that? Can you believe saying, yeah, this person looks absolutely human, but they have this power where they don't feel pain, so knock yourself out. Have fun. Fucking disgusting. Anyway.
So, this film, as time goes by.
Oh, yeah, the movie.
Yep. So you got all these weird characters. You got Ryder, who's the policeman. The story of that is he had accidentally killed his son in a cricket game. Is that what it was? No,
yes.
It was not cricket. Yeah,
cricket. He hit for 6, which I keep telling myself
6 of 8.
I want to learn the rules of cricket. But I never sit down and watch anything that explains it to me. So I still don't know, but apparently that's good. The ball.
The most I know about cricket was that commercial they had where the guy was like, it's a sixer. Like, what's a sixer?
It's good. I don't know.
Thanks.
The ball hit the kid, which actually could maybe actually tie into a real life event. Hold on. I got to look something up.
God damn it.
No, there was a baseball player. A software update is required to connect to my phone. No, I don't want to do that right now. So there was a baseball player who hit a foul ball, and it hit a kid. Nope, it's not the 2019 one. Oh man, there's a lot of people that got hit with balls. Anyway, so
people get hit with baseballs every single day.
I know, but it was a kid that was hit, and the player picked the kid up and actually ran him to emergency workers to get him safe. So could have been inspired by that kind of thing, or it could happen in a cricket match. I don't fucking know.
It's a sixer, mate. Sixer.
But yeah, that's the guy's tragedy in his life that made him quit cricket and become a grizzled, disgruntled cop.
Yep. Who doesn't wear a uniform or drive a cop car?
Yeah.
Or have a badge, apparently.
It's like Yoda doesn't need a lightsaber because he's just so powerful with the Force. This guy's so powerful with Australian law enforcement. He doesn't need any of that shit.
Bruno Lawrence is actually pretty good in this too. I mean, he's almost the same character as he in Jack Be Nimble, like in terms of like his attitude, but he does a good job. But the thing with this movie is that you've got all these crazy characters. So yeah, you got Ryder, who's the police officer. You got Mike, who's the surfer guy. You got Connie, who's the female love interest. James was the cow guy with the ozone.
Yeah, okay.
I think. And then JL was the guy that ran the store. And then you had Joe the alien. And then there was the guy that was the scientist or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So you get all these weirdo characters, which they spent a lot of time putting together with who these characters were, and then forgot to write the script. So its biggest issue is that you got all these interesting characters, and there's no plot really.
Yeah. Yeah. The only real plot is this guy has the note, and he goes to the location and he meets people, and then it's just sort of like a day in the life kind of thing until it's time for him to go. And then you get a couple squabbles, a couple problems that aren't very serious, and then he goes. I mean, that's really it. He goes and finds the place. And then he does what the dude asks.
Yeah.
There's not much standing in their way except the that
ozone
gang
guy.
That gang from the Stallone Judge Dredd movie. That's them hanging out in the desert. The Angel family, that's what it was.
Yeah, the anti-sheep guys, because they just hate sheep apparently.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is, even though like there's no real good story, and it just kind of plays along, it's not bad. Like
no.
They don't try, and I think it's because they don't try too hard. They don't push it too hard. So it all kind of works in this weird sort of way. And it's pretty short. It only runs like 88 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
No, about 90, 95 minutes tops. So it all kind of just falls into place. You get, part time with this character, time with this character, time with this character, and then we bring them all together at the end, and like none of it really makes any sense, but you're kind of okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah, because everything is resolved in a good way or a sloppy, lazy way, but whatever. There was one thing that was explained extraordinarily well, and I was super happy about it.
Oh, do tell.
It was, and I can't give more than just to say the aliens' reason for picking that specific date and time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was really well thought out, and it made me go, okay, movie, you win. I'll give you a good grade.
Yeah, it was, they wrote that part out.
Yes.
The rest of the screenplay, they were kind of like, whatever, but we just got to make sure that the one thing that the entire movie, actually, it's pretty smart now. The one thing in the movie that has to matter will be the one thing that we write out and make sense.
Yeah. Why is time travel involved, and why are these dates specific?
Yeah, because the time travel thing kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, so now it's a time travel movie.
Well, I mean, the note and the UFO all led me to, there's got to be some kind of time anomaly happening. So the time machine wasn't a surprise per se for me, but how it's used, I thought was interesting. It's a very, I wouldn't mind having that prop. Actually, that's a neat looking prop because it's got
kind of cool. Yeah,
it's like it's like they took one of the combination locks off of a large safe, fitted onto a cocktail mixer, and it just works. It just that's the thing. Like Malcolm's inventions, like the Ghostbuster stuff, all of that, it looks homemade, and they did a good job with it.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I guess we can give some rankings.
Yeah.
Mission failure.
That works.
No, that's
so
that means
Chris.
the same thing.
Let's try this one. There we go.
Okay. Yeah.
So Chris, do you recommend, what is your grade for As Time Goes By?
I am going to recommend this because I've never heard anybody talk about it before. So given our group of people, this definitely seems to be an under the radar one. So check it out. And then you can brag about having seen a movie no one else has ever seen.
Except for all the people that listen to the show.
Well, they have to see it.
We'll hook them up.
So I'll give this recommend, and I think I'm also going to give it a B+. I enjoyed this one. It was weird. The characters weren't stupid. Like the guy knows, okay, I got this one thing to do, but I still have a life after this. So I can't stop. He still has a relationship with the woman, that kind of stuff. All of it. He's living his life. He's just like, I got to do this one thing. And then he does. It worked. It worked really well.
Okay.
You can tell me why you didn't like it.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to recommend it also. I don't think I liked it as much as you did, but I think overall it's a pretty good movie. It's interesting storytelling. It's interesting characters. I just wish there was a little bit more of a plot line in the script to kind of drive it a little bit more, because there was a few points where I did get kind of bored. And I'm like, all right, kind of when it gets to the slice of life daily stuff where I'm just kind of like, all right, where are we going? And they don't introduce the alien stuff. Like they give you the tease of it at the beginning, but not enough to really understand what's going on. And also, unlike every other normal red-blooded American, I could care less about Budweiser. And whenever I see Budweiser thrown to the forefront of something, I'm just like, it just seems so white trash to me. Apologies if you were a beer drinker out there and you enjoy Budweiser, but like, it just seems like I don't care.
Budweiser to me is like the Friday the 13th of movies.
Lowest common denominator.
It was fine,
and I'm not railing against it because of any of the stuff that people have railed against Budweiser for in the last year. I actually appreciate what they did with the trans community and stuff, and I'm not kid rocking this.
You mean by kid rocking? Do you mean hanging around with trans people until your career got really big, and then you got backed by the Republican Party, and then the president likes you so much that he licks your dick, and then a couple weeks after you shoot up some Budweiser cans, you're caught drinking a Budweiser?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. So a hypocrite.
I am not doing that.
No.
I am not doing that. Hypocrite and also trash.
I don't enjoy the flavor of it. I like different beers.
I've never drank one, so I can't comment on the flavor. I can just comment on the culture and the bro culture that goes along with it.
Yeah. Well, we had that too for a while with PBR, remember?
It still is like that. That's the hipster beer.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think hipsters was still a thing.
They're not.
Oh, okay.
They're not.
That's good.
Anyway, no, I like it. I like it. I love the dirty, burnt Outback look. Everything is just so hot and sweaty, and I'm like, yep. I'm like, I'm in for that.
Yep.
I'm not going to grade it as high as you because I did have some issues with it. I'm going to still keep it in the B's. I'm going to give it a B-.
That's good.
Not mad that I watched it. I enjoyed it. I think a lot of you guys are going to really enjoy it. So if you can track down a copy and are maybe a member of the Patreon, just saying, maybe you could see it. Let us know.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best way to, that's the best incentive. You like this movie? What do they have to, what is the donation that we're asking for them to be able to?
$5 a month to get access.
So it's like a subscription service and you just keep adding in movies that people can never find.
Potentially. Not saying that's what's going to happen, but
it's interesting.
But I do want to thank David for these suggestions because they were two really interesting ones that we never probably would have covered or come across because they weren't easy to find.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, David. Appreciate that. Okay. No Joe again this week because we're recording on an off day because I'm going to be away all next week. So no Joe this week. He will be back next week. But we do have Reverend Scott returning. So let's see what he has to say.
But no, seriously, you should review Cobweb as my Patreon pick. Do it.
We can't review it. It's only on video on demand. Next week on the show, not Cobweb.
Son of a bitch.
And we're starting our Patreon picks. We are doing the film Cobwebs. I'd like to thank Larry for suggesting this film. It's a good step into our start of stuff from this year because this is new. This is this year, right?
Yes. Not that long ago.
So mad props to Larry for suggesting this film. Once again, props to Larry for choosing this movie.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I would have watched it otherwise. I'd be curious to think if what Reverend Scott would think of this movie because he definitely loves, probably more so than you and I, like the modern horror stuff.
Well, I
don't know.
Now that we mentioned his name. Oh, yeah, he will definitely review it in his segment because that's how my life works. I'm going to have to hear about this movie again.
This week on a very special Holy Shit with Reverend Scott, Bill goes to jail for being a liar. Larry is murdered by a mysterious black-gloved killer. And Chris has to stay home and babysit Rodrigo's twins' baby.
Fuck!
Let's begin.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. With Reverend Scott. Once again, props to Larry for choosing this movie.
Yeah.
Hey there, Bill and Chris. This is Reverend Scott.
This may be controversial. I don't really give a shit, but I don't get why people love him so much.
What?
Yeah.
And welcome to Holy Shit, voted number 1 by 4 out of 5 listeners. The 5th listener, of course, being Larry.
Jesus Christ, man, like this is insane.
Oh, is it? Is it insane? I guess we'll see who's insane when I review your review of Cobweb while simultaneously doing my review of Cobweb later. That'll show you.
Fucking excuse me? Like, what are you saying?
I don't fucking know. So let's just start out by talking a bit about the Sam Rockwell Jim Carrey classic, Footprints on the Moon, which instantly had Bill's Italian film snobometer in the red.
In this underrated giallo gem, It is not a giallo.
Because I may not know what the fuck this girl with amnesia movie was really about after hearing your review, but I do know what was missing.
It's boobs.
Boobs! Oh shit, boobs, really?
And why, pray tell, do you think she forgot to show her boobs?
Because she might have.
Okay, that makes sense. But seriously, tell me about the plot.
We could tell you, but you won't remember.
Oh, well, that's a problem.
You probably did already tell me. Oh well, no one cares at this point, especially not Chris.
What happened to her? Was she here? She have a doppelganger?
Right.
What the hell is that?
Nothing.
So I give Footprint Man on the Moon a C-, and the review gets a B+, but only the part involving Chris's vacuum.
Nothing.
So now's the part when I would usually just do a review of your review of the second film, then review something I watched after that. But Chris basically forced me into reviewing Cobweb on my segment, so I guess that's just what I'm going to do. Let me begin with the major plot hole that I'm sure you both noticed last week.
Larry hooked us up with an early release on this. Want to thank him for that, doing things for the show.
Yeah.
More than other people.
About time somebody does.
But Larry just sent over a quick message and says, "Hey guys, love the show. Hate Reverend Scott. Enjoy the film."
Okay. That's fair.
Okay.
That's right. Larry did no such thing, as he's too incompetent to do anything that useful. So anyway, since you just basically went over the majority of the plot on the show last week, I'm just going to try and focus more on what I enjoyed. How's that sound?
It's just lazy.
And I'm also going to point out all the various times during your review that you were wrong.
Nope, I'm done. Bye.
The first thing is something that I just can't take credit for because I heard it mentioned in a Red Letter Media review of the movie Cobweb. It's just that Cobweb isn't being told from your typical outside or adult point of view, but rather is being told through the eyes of a child, Peter to be exact. That's why some things are just a bit off. Sometimes it's the lighting. Sometimes it's the size of the house from the outside that doesn't quite seem to match how large the house is from the inside. From a child's perspective, it just seems larger inside there. Some things are just exaggerated because of this. It's not a fantasy film like Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands may be, but it's still a fantasy nonetheless. That being said, at least you guys did a lot of research before reviewing this film.
Because Luke Busey is Jake Busey's son, right?
I believe so. I did not look it up. I
didn't look it up either, but he looks just like him. And he's got crazy eyes, just like him.
To be fair, Chris did correct you later on Luke being Gary Busey's son, but I just wanted to make sure to let you know that you're wrong, and I award you no points.
Fair.
Next, I wanted to talk about the acting. While the little boy Peter does a spectacular job, Anthony Starr and Lizzie Kaplan just get the chef's kiss.
Kissing's fine, but no insertion.
Few can portray the level of uneasiness and tension that Anthony Starr can just with like a look or an attitude. Are they exaggerated? Yeah, but they're supposed to be. Just like the teacher. I mean, does she go too far? Sure. But it adds to the tension and makes her and Peter more sympathetic, I think. So I guess that just leaves the elephant, or rather the spider in the room.
Look at Spider Boy's crotch. They're like, holy shit.
Peter's sister. What transpires in the second half is likely the sole reason this movie is polarizing, to say the least. On one hand, you get reactions like Bill's, who are wrong and not right and embarrassing to hear. Obviously, there's nobody agreeing with Bill.
No, why would there be?
Well, I mean,
come on, dude.
And on the other hand, you have my opinion, which is right and just. And it's that the second half is fast-paced, satisfying, and continues the fantasy that the rest of this movie establishes. And how I can see why Chris was like...
But yeah, so yeah, it's fine. I'm not upset I watched it, but I'm not thrilled either.
I think this is a movie that really has the spirit of Halloween breathing through it. And it's just a solid, fun movie to watch if you're not a grumpy old man who is much older than me with a bad opinion.
I love it.
Right?
It's so true.
So in conclusion, I do recommend that you see Cobweb. Watch it with the part of your brain that enjoys the whimsical and the old Tim Burton-esque fantasy horror style that movies like The Nun 2 could only dream of pulling off. And I give Cobweb a solid B+. And I give you a review of Larry's Pick a D-. Eat shit. Okay, so I don't have time to talk about the horror movie that I just watched this week, which could possibly be Chris's favorite movie of the year instantly. Maybe I'll just talk about that next week. Then he can review it in his sexy talk.
I was all set to do the whole thing with this voice.
But until then, peace and love, guys. Holy shit with Reverend Scott.
I don't know. Don't you get tired of it after a while? Like the whole thing? Like, I just wish you would stop.
By the way, since you did Cobweb for Larry and not me, I guess that means I still get a Patreon pick.
Nope.
So how about you do No One Will Save You? And it's on Hulu,
gonna watch that
so you can
anyway.
stop complaining. Do it.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have Hulu anymore. I canceled it because it's like $30 a month now. So sorry. What? Deal with it. I did cancel my Hulu subscription.
Oh, did you?
I did. I've had Hulu for a long time, but like the last price raise, it's what up to like it was $17.99, $18.99 a month.
I don't even know, honestly, at this
It's
point.
a lot more than it should be. I also canceled my Disney Plus subscription too.
Oh,
So
that's too bad. Ahsoka is really good. I'm having fun with that.
yeah, and I'll get it again at some point. But I was like, I've watched Disney Plus like once in the last 4 months.
Oh, okay. We're
So-
about once or twice a week over here, so
Yeah.
that
So,
makes sense.
thank you guys for hanging out. We want to thank David again for suggesting this week's flicks.
Yeah. Also,
so,
take a second
we
to
recorded
write
this show
in.
early. I'm gone next week, so
Yeah. If David could take a second, if he wants to write in and let us know what they thought of it, those two movies, that would be nice.
yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
That's-
Patreon.com/outside the cinema.
Yeah.
OGC Bill, at Cthulhu, Facebook, Outside the Cinema. Look it up. We're good, dudes.
Yeah, I think
We'll see you next week, all right? Bye.